Hi there everybody, welcome to Rocket Club. Today we're going to learn about how to put the motors together properly. So, first of all, here's all the parts laid out and labeled for you. We're going to go over those in just a minute. Let's get that to where you can read it. There we go. And then to start with though, I just wanted to show you, this is what the motors come in, okay? And you have an F35, that's the motor that we're using, an F35, and that tells you about how powerful it is essentially. And then this 5W, 8W, or 11W afterwards tells you about how long the delay is on the motor. So this kit is an F35 5W, meaning it has a 5-second delay after it launches from the pad before the ejection charge takes place. So here are all the parts. They come 2 per pack like this, 2 reloads per pack. It's kind of confusing to look at in there, and that's why I have one laid out here in front of us. And the one that we're going to build is a 5-second delay, and I want to show you a quick tidbit about the delays, and that is that the delays come in different sizes, and this is how they determine whether it's 5, 8, or 11 seconds. So here I have a 5, there we go, and an 8-second delay, and you can see how much taller the 8-second is than the 5, and that's how we know that it's a 5, 8, or 11-second delay. Now the catch is that with the different delay lengths, there's a different little piece that has to fit in with it, and that's called our delay spacer. And in this case, for the 5-second delays, it's this magenta color. For the 8-second delays, it's a little different size, and they make it a different color as well. It's black. So I'm going to put this 8-second delay. That's got to go because I don't want to confuse that with my 5-second that I'm properly building. So now let's just go over what our parts are. So up here in the very front of the motor case, we have our forward closure. A motor, when it's finished, looks like this. And the things that get added to it are our ejection charge and our nozzle cap. So I'm going to show you the motor without the ejection charge, without the nozzle cap. And that is 3 basic components. You have your aft closure, that's this piece here. Here's the one I'm working on. You have your motor case itself. That's this piece right here. That's the one I'm working on. And then you have your forward closure. And the forward closure is kind of a complex looking little piece, and it does some pretty important things, and is actually kind of the more complex part of the motor to put together. So we're going to actually start with our forward closure and its components, and then work our way backwards towards the aft closure. So I'm going to set this aside since we don't need that. And let's go over the parts. So we have our forward closure. I just showed you that. You have your, I'm going to set that down like that, a delay insulator. So the delay insulator is just a cardboard tube, and that slips inside of the forward closure. Inside of the delay insulator goes our delay element. So this is a material that takes 5 seconds to burn from one side to the other, and then it triggers the ejection charge. A delay spacer, very important which direction, which side this delay spacer goes inside of. Our delay insulator, and then the delay element goes in the opposite side. That I'll show you when we get to the building. Take that back apart for now. On the very front of the forward closure goes this O-ring. It's our delay O-ring. And the reason I put the 2 O-ring sets, the delay O-ring and the forward and aft O-rings, right next to each other is so that you can clearly see the difference in size. Your forward and aft O-rings are larger in diameter and narrower in their cross-section, or they're not as fat in thickness as our delay O-ring. Then here we have our forward insulator. The forward insulator goes kind of like right behind the forward closure when we go to put the rest of the motor together. Here we have a liner and our propellant grain. Now the liner, if you read it right here, it says, if paper liner is tight, peel the outer layer. That means this white paper layer right here, you can see how I've started to peel it back. That right there, if we look, it doesn't fit in the liner, or I'm sorry, it doesn't fit in the motor case right now. I can't get it to squeeze in there. So to make the liner fit in the motor case, it says right here, paper liner is tight, peel the outer layer. So we're gonna peel that outer layer back like this. And you'll have to do that on pretty much every motor we've found so far. So I'm gonna set that back in there. I'm gonna set this down and take care of that in a minute. The propellant grain, this is what actually propels the motor forward, propels the rocket forward. This is what actually burns inside of the motor. And you see that it has a slot cut in it. And the slot is where eventually the igniter is gonna slide up into from the aft closure and all the way to the very front, up next to the forward closure and the delay system on top of the propellant grain. So you'll see that here in just a minute. Now, once we have these two portions completed, we're going to insert our nozzle. The nozzle has the venturi down the inside and out the back, so the propellant grain sits right here, and then the blast, the thrust from the motor shoots out the back of the nozzle that direction. Here we have our ejection charge and nozzle cap. Now, this is a pretty tricky little thing that we have a lot of mistakes with, so I want to show you how to use this when we get there. So this is actually two pieces and three components, we would say. So we have a nozzle cap is the larger diameter portion. Our ejection charge cap is the smaller portion. And then inside of these two, there's actually, you can't hear it or see it, but there's actually a little bit of gunpowder floating around in there. So that gunpowder is the actual charge, okay, the ejection charge. So this is a pretty important little piece that we know how to use it properly. Once we get past that, last thing we do is going to be install our aft closure, and then we'll slip an igniter in. The igniters come in a cardboard tube, looks like this. There we go. You have the actual igniter end, and then you have the end that we attach to our launch mechanisms here. So I'm going to just set those back down, and I'll be careful with them when I load the one in. And then this material right here is our synthetic grease, and we put this grease on multiple parts within the motor. We're going to put grease on threads and on a couple of different O-rings. So, okay, now let's get started.